Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are looking at the Leatherman FREE T4. Now, much like the Leatherman FREE P2 and P4 plier-based multi-tools that came out a little earlier this year, the T4 is going to follow the same magnetic architecture that those multi-tools had, except the T4 and the T2, which we'll look at later, are more of a pocket tool as opposed to a plier-based multi-tool. Now, Leatherman tried something similar a couple of years ago with their kind of half juice models. They didn't see, they weren't met with a lot of fanfare because they were really just a hacked up juice as opposed to being a completely redesigned tool. The T4 and T2 carry a lot of the same tool sets that you're going to find in the P2 and P4, but they are definitely a brand new design. So we're going to walk through the specs, show you what all the tool sets are, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on my experience with the T4 over the last couple of weeks of using it, and maybe this multi-tool is the right one for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So the specifications on this multi-tool are as follows. The overall length from end to end is 3 5/8 of an inch, or about 93 millimeters. It weighs in at 4.3 ounces or 122 grams. The overall width of the multi-tool is right at about an inch wide, or 25 millimeters, just a tick under actually an inch wide. The depth of it, if you discount the pocket clip, is about 3/4 of an inch or 19 millimeters. Now, one thing I will say about the T4 right off the start is it does come with a deep carry pocket clip, and I think it suits this multi-tool really well. Even though it is a little thick for a multi-tool or for a pocket tool, it does ride in the pocket really well. It's not that you won't notice it, it's just that it really isn't uncomfortable to carry in the pocket. The first tool that we're going to look at is the knife blade. Now, the knife blade is 420 HC, no upgraded steels on these. Now, Leatherman is kind of generous on what they call their blade out as. They call it out as a 2.2 inch blade, or 5.6 centimeters. I'm sorry. And I'm not coming up with that. I get it out at about 2 1/32 of an inch, or about 53 millimeters. So they're being a little bit generous with the measurement on that knife blade. Now, I don't particularly like this knife blade. I would have rather have seen a design more like the P4 that we saw earlier this year, instead of that large drop point on such a short blade. But the knife is like we're come to expect from Leatherman. They usually come out of the factory really sharp. However, I noticed that the knife blade on the P4, or excuse me, on the T4, didn't come out quite what I'm accustomed to from Leatherman. Usually they come out razor sharp, and this one, while it's fairly sharp, did not come out with the same quality that I've seen in other offerings from Leatherman from the past. Now, next to the knife blade, we have a combination tool, which is the pry tool, the package opener, and interestingly enough, this same tool is in the P2 and P4, but they only call it out as two separate tools. So they call it out as the pry tool and the package opener, but the T4 actually lists this as a medium screwdriver as well. So this is actually a 3-function tool. And then next to that, we have the file. Now, much like the P4 file, it's very short. It is a nice aggressive file. It does work well. It's just that it's really kind of short to be viable for really getting any kind of decent work done with it. In a pinch, it will work though. Also comes with an integrated medium screwdriver tip on the end. Now, one thing that we don't normally find in a Leatherman multi-tool, with some few exceptions, are a set of tweezers. I like the fact that they integrated tweezers into this particular multi-tool. If we get flipped around to the other side, we have the combination number 1, number 2 Phillips driver another tool that we're going to find exactly the same on the P2 and P4 series with the integrated bottle cap lifter, which I can attest to works very, very well on those other multi-tools and this one as well. Next to that, we have the awl. Now, the awl, much like the P4, the awl works well. It's hard to knock the awl because it does function very well. I would like to see it more in a point instead of integrating that mini screwdriver on the tip, but it's hard to knock it when it does function. So I've tested this in pressure treated lumber and it had zero problem zipping through it and creating a hole in it. And it's just an added bonus that you have that little screwdriver tip on the end. Now, the last tool on the multi-tool are the scissors. Scissors are interesting on this multi-tool. I tested these on a variety of different things, and they worked well on light cardboard, on paper, cutting through zip ties, and matter of fact, I'm going to bring in a couple of those right now to give you an idea. So here's some zip tie material, and it really handles that very well. On paper, it really had no issue. On light cardboard, it doesn't really have an issue either. One thing I will tell you that I learned about this particular scissor set though is that when you're cutting through, this is a little stiffer cardboard than what I had previously tested for the P4. You'll notice that the scissor here, it actually goes up instead of other multi-tools. Let's take a look at, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at the Wingman scissors real quick. The Wingman scissors, and this is true of most other scissor styles from Leatherman, the scissors actually are either flat or in the case of the Wingman they actually dip down a little bit. So what will happen is when you're cutting through cardboard and the cardboard kind of slips over and you don't have, it doesn't push into the scissors, so you don't really have a problem cutting through. Now in the case of the T4, what will happen is you'll see that as you're trying to cut, that cardboard is running in to that lip, and so you kind of have to, when you have some stiffer cardboard like this, I really had to force it down in order to keep cutting through. It cuts fine on the end, but if I'm trying to cut a long stretch, then I had some issue with it. Another issue that I had that I wasn't expecting was on the Leatherman FREE T4, which I have here. It did pretty well when cutting through paracord, so it wasn't as clean as the Leatherman Surge is, but it doesn't do bad at all. Now, they look like exactly the same scissor design, the same tension bar, the same dimensions, the same everything, but for some reason, and it may be that I just have a fluke of a tool, the scissors on the T4 do not cut through paracord very easily and not nearly as well as the P4. I don't know why that is. The only thing that I can think of is maybe I've got a rivet that's not quite as secure or snug as I have on my P4, which doesn't have a problem getting through paracord. So there's a little bit of an issue with that, but that may very well be just this particular tool. That is the Leatherman FREE T4. Now, I've had the Leatherman FREE T2 and T4 for a couple of weeks now, and I've been trying to use them pretty regular so that I could kind of give you my opinion on what I think about these two multi-tools. So the T4, there are some things that I like about it, and there's some things that I'm not sold on, and other things that I don't like very much at all. So the knife blade, I feel like it could have been better. It would have been nice if we could have got a little bit larger for the size of the overall size of this multi-tool. I wish it could have been engineered just slightly differently so that we could get a little bit longer blade. I would have liked to seen a little different blade design, but that's not really a deal breaker. The knife does work well. It is 420 high carbon, so we're not getting any premium steels, but we wouldn't expect to in a tool such as this either. The pry tool, package opener, and screwdriver all work well. The package opener takes a little bit of getting used to if you're going to use it to cut open clamshell packaging, but it does work and it is effective, and it's actually a nice tool to have on a pocket tool like this. The file, the problem that I have with the file is twofold. The first thing is that it's really kind of short to be able to get much use out of it, and I think a different tool would have been better in its place in this particular tool set. The other problem that I have with the file is the magnetic architecture. And what I mean by that is the magnets on the for the hold downs for these interior implements will transfer their magnetism onto the tool. So if you are using the file to grind down any kind of metal or file down any kind of metal, that metal dust, that metal particulate will tend to stick to your file because the magnet is attracting it to it, and it doesn't really affect the functionality. It's just more of, it's just bothersome is what it is, and you have to sit there and clean it out, and I don't like that. I'm not sold on the magnetic architecture. I just still feel that magnets are not a good idea in a multi-tool. Now the next thing is the bottle cap lifter works exceptionally well. I'm surprised that they don't have a can opener on this, because Leatherman is world famous for putting a can opener on just about everything, but we don't get one on this tool, and that is incredibly surprising. The screwdriver works decently. It's would have been better if the drivers would have been in a replaceable bit configuration instead of these, what I consider more of cheaper tools. The all works well. I still would have preferred that it come down to a point. The scissors, I don't know what the issue is with the scissors on the T4 that I have, and it's quite possible, like I said before, that I just have a fluke of a tool and I could get that warranted and it wouldn't be an issue. I do like the fact that it has tweezers. That is a huge plus, and I really like the fact that it has a deep carry pocket clip, because I feel that what the T4 is going to be up against in competition in the marketplace, it has a leg up in because it does have an integrated pocket clip. Now the price point on the T4 is where I have an issue. This comes in at $60. I feel it's a bit overpriced. I feel that this tool should be more in the $40 to $45 range, considering what it's going to be competing against, because I can think of various different Victorinox multi-tool knives that have the same functionality, are extremely close, and in some cases more, that are right in that price range of $30 to $40, and they're slimmer carries and come with Victorinox quality. Now, they are not going to have the pocket clip, which I think in the T4 is a huge advantage, but I still feel like the T4 is a bit overpriced. It is a nice idea to have a tool set. Not everybody needs a plier-based multi-tool. For me, it doesn't replace or doesn't do anything that my Leatherman Surge doesn't do. So for me in particular, I won't be using it other than just testing. But I do like the fact that Leatherman is trying something a little different, and I think that they're on to something here. I really do. I think they can actually build a tool that would compete fairly well with the Victorinox style knives. I just don't think it's going to happen in this magnetic architecture, and especially not at this price point. Well, my name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I hope you've enjoyed this little review of the Leatherman FREE T4. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.